Welcome to the Marriage Boss Podcast, and I'm pumped up because I've got a special guest today, and we're going to talk about a very hot topic that we usually don't talk about on the Marriage Boss Podcast. As a matter of fact, we don't talk about it enough anywhere in our lives, but we're thinking about it 24 hours a day, and that's sex. Jane Guyn is one of the first certified professional sex coaches in the United States. She also has a PhD in Clinical Sexology, is a core energy coach, and is a UCLA trained registered nurse. Jane runs trainings for marriage and family therapists who want to feel comfortable talking about sex with their clients using her proven bedroom method, which is so awesome. She also coaches men, women, and couples virtually, in person, and during customized weekend intensives. Jane is most proud of her passionate 30-plus year marriage to Jim, who is her best friend and the love of her life. She wants her 6 children to grow up in a world where the beauty of sexuality is understood and appreciated without shame. Jane lives in Portland, Oregon, where her house is filled with cats, dogs, and kids of all ages. And you can find her at janeguyn.com, and it's JaneGuyn.com. Jane, welcome to the Marriage Boss Podcast.
Thank you, Rick. I am so glad to be here.
Well, I'm happy to have you today. And, I wanted to just jump into this because when you and I first met, we were kind of investigating what each other does. And then there was a little bit of a gap between when we reconnected. And when we reconnected a couple weeks ago, I watched a couple of videos that you did, and we started to talk more deeply about you coming on the show. And you've got so much exciting stuff going on. So why don't you tell us what's new and exciting in your world right now?
Oh, thanks. I've had the opportunity to talk with a lot of people lately in my work. I was recently in Seattle talking with a group of women about the topic of sex. And it pointed out to me that we just don't get a chance to talk about it because it's such a taboo subject for most of us, or for many of us, particularly people in my age range. I think younger people maybe are more open about it, but some of us who've been around for a while, we just don't feel comfortable sharing our thoughts and feelings. And because of that, we actually, in many of our relationships or marriages, we're not talking about it either.
Yeah.
And I've had the chance to talk with people about it, and it can really change our lives when we start sharing openly and really be honest with ourselves about who we are as sexual beings.
When we were talking last week, I brought up the topic of men and all the secrets we have and the time spent thinking about sex and then not talking about it. And in relationships, I know that in my own relationship, I have had to think, manipulate, negotiate, just have more on my mind about it than I'm actually engaged in the act. Mm-hmm. So what do you think is behind all of the secrets and all this negotiating and manipulating that goes on around sex between especially married couples with lots of stuff going on and kids and jobs and we really don't have a lot of time for each other. So what do you think is going on there? Let's talk about why men may have these secrets and this, let's say the man is the high drive person.
Yeah.
What is going on and why are we negotiating and manipulating and what's going on with all this?
Okay, so one thing to do is to figure out how often people actually are having sex. We should get that on the table first.
Okay.
It's researchers show that 20% of married couples and 33 or so percent of non-married couples have sex less than 10 times a year. Okay. So that's including all the married couples. That's including the newly marrieds and the long-time married. Okay, so less than one time a month for many people in this country. So people aren't having a lot of sex. The people who are not in that category are in the 1 to 3 times a week frequency.
Okay.
So if you're at the 3 time a week frequency for intercourse, this is what they're talking about. You're in the high sex group.
Okay.
And I don't think we think that. I think we think that all of our friends are out there having sex pretty much every day or, 4 or 5 times a week. That's just not true.
Yep.
So when people are trying to figure out how to get together, there's some misconceptions at the front end. If they're thinking that other people are having sex more often, that they figured it out, but they really have not figured it out. So you're asking about why is it that it's so hard to negotiate that piece? My philosophy is that it's because we expect the Noah and Allie moment to happen. And when I say the Noah and Allie moment, I'm talking about the movie The Notebook. Have you ever seen The Notebook?
Yep.
So that's that scene where they're in the rain. It is the most passionate scene. I show this in my trainings, and everybody, after the video goes off, they're just like, everybody has to like, go out and take a break because it's such a steamy and just erotic scene where he takes her in through the screen door into this old house, and he picks her up and carries her up the stairs soaking wet, and they're just making out, kissing, holding each other. She's all over him. They get up to the bed and strip their clothes off, and passionate sex. She climbs on top of him, has orgasm. They're just like absolutely hot for each other. And this is what we're waiting for. This is what we think is supposed to happen. Like, I'm supposed to be out on the street here, and my husband's supposed to pick me up, and it's raining. I live in Portland. It doesn't rain a lot right now this season, but he's supposed to carry me all the way up the stairs. I'm just grabbing him and tearing his hair out, and we just fall into the bed. Of course, there aren't any cats, dogs, kids.
Yep.
The mailman is not delivering something from the U.S. Postal Service. It's a fantasy that's what happens, that sense of being overcome with desire, particularly the woman, that the woman is hot and wildly passionate for him. And when that doesn't happen, the guy doesn't know what to do. Like, what do you do with a woman who starts at level like 1? I mean, she's not aroused at all. She's actually distracted.
Well, if you think back, most of our relationships started out with some of these moments in them. So when we first got together, right, whether it was daily or twice a day or whatever, and then it tapers off. So whether you get married or you start living together or you kind of become used to each other, it inevitably slows down. So, one or the other partner says, okay, enough is enough, and we're going to just kind of go to, once a day, and then once a week, and then once a month, and then whenever the kids aren't around or you're on a vacation somewhere to a resort. Mm-hmm. So I've heard every kind of story in my business and have experienced every different type of, I'm married 27 years with Carol, almost 30, so certainly we have experienced the same things. And because there's such I'll use the phrase drop-off from the original passion down to a more practical, livable level, inevitably one person or the other is going to be, if the high drive person wants it more, they're going to be unhappy. If the lower drive person wants it less, they're going to be unhappy. So this dance begins, yeah, and this negotiation and this, the intrigue and the mystery. It's like almost like a spy novel. Yeah. The different things that are incorporated and put in place to try to negotiate this time together, and then the intimacy level. I can remember hearing stories about people who were thinking, well, if I do it less, then it'll be better. But mm-hmm. Then what do I do with the time that I'm not getting it, or the passion's not there? And then there's so many other activities that can occupy people's time, both to substitute for sex and or and that can bring a couple apart, so cause disconnection. So I think we're afraid to talk about it because if we bring it up, then that other person might say, I thought I told you we were going to do it, once a month. Why are you bringing this up? Why do you want it again? Or why do you want spontaneity when it was planned? Or why do you want to plan it when it should be spontaneous? So there's so much disagreement about this.
You're so right. Yeah, and it's painful. It's actually the feeling of being rejected sexually, whether you're a man or a woman, is so painful and so deep. And it feels like just like you as a person are not appealing. There's something about you that is almost repelling me. And when you feel like that, as you are the person who is not being like pulled in, when you're aroused and the person isn't saying, I want you back, it's very, very painful. And I think that when women are the people who are rejecting, they don't understand, we don't understand how that actually feels, because we haven't had that experience as much as men have. Yeah. Because we're the ones who are always saying like, oh no, not, no, we're saying no throughout a lot of the relationships. We kind of are the no keepers. We don't really get it, what it feels like to be rejected. But I have had clients where women where the same things happened, and they are incredibly hurt, because it makes you feel so worthless when somebody doesn't want you. Mm-hmm. But still, that it's, life is still going on. So how do we negotiate without feeling like we're manipulating? And how does a woman, if she's the one who's wanting less sex, let's say, ask for what she wants? But I heard at this talk I did the other day was that women don't want less sex, they want better sex.
Wow.
They want less bad sex.
Wow.
Yeah. They don't like the sex they're getting. That's one of the things that I think a lot of men don't know, is the sex they're offering is not the sex she's wanting, and they're saying no to that sex. They don't know how to negotiate for a different sex style as a couple.
Okay, so I got a great idea. Mm-hmm. Being that you and I decided to do this, we are going to give permission, which is one of the things we talked about the other day. We're going to give permission right on this show for men to bring up this conversation and start this conversation with their women. Yeah. Are you getting the kind of sex that you want from me, or am I just wanting it too much and it's not good? Mm-hmm. And we're going to give permission for the women in our audience to ask their men for better sex. Mm-hmm. And I think maybe what could happen is, numerically, arithmetically here, our math equation could begin to line up.
Yeah.
Because then maybe what we need less better sex, or, whether it's more better sex or whatever, but we just need the quality of our connection to get better. Yeah. So we have problems with our cable TV here sometimes at the house. And so they come and check the signal strength.
That's exactly.
And they're tightening wires and checking connections. And inevitably, each person who comes, every tech, has a different solution for the problem. One says you need a splitter. One says you have too many splitters. One says the run is too long. One says it's too short. One says you need an amplifier. The other one says you have too many amplifiers. One box, two boxes. So basically, you and I are going to be cable techs today.
Yes.
We're going to come in and say, what we're going to do is increase the signal strength between men and women. And of course, this applies to same-sex couples too. We're going to give you permission to speak about this topic and see if you can get this thing ironed out. So Jane and Rick are now giving permission for men to talk to women about the quality of the sex and vice versa, and women to talk to men about the frequency and quality of the sex. So this is a breakthrough. I think that
absolutely
we've actually, this is something I never thought of myself. I never thought of that. So that's a terrific point. Okay, so tell us what we can do now. We know what the problem is. What can we do to communicate more often and more effectively about this hot topic?
Well, the first thing is to really open your heart to your partner and realize that it is a sensitive topic. So when you say stuff to your partner about sex, about the quality of the sex, it has to be done with tenderness. And I think that's one of the reasons that people don't bring it up. They don't want to hurt the other person's feelings, and they're worried about that. Like if I say something, maybe he's going to feel like I don't think his erections are good, or he's going to feel like, one of the things that people complain about or women mention, is the sex is too fast. Okay. So, and that there's tons of jokes about that. But that's not really, they're not just talking about the guy having orgasm too fast. They're talking about the whole thing is too fast.
Okay.
It's not just that he has an orgasm too quickly. It's that he is rushing her into it. I heard one of my clients the other day said he pinches one nipple pinches the other nipple, and he thinks I should be ready, and he wants to climb on.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a typical way for a woman to talk about sex that she considers not the quality she's looking for. Or he comes up to me in the kitchen, he grabs my breasts, and assumes that that's foreplay, and he wants to climb on.
Mm-hmm.
That's not hot. That's not hot.
So how do we help people who were raised in an environment or grew up in an environment or have had this similar story where this is just what they did?
Mm-hmm.
So how do we, we're in an age where whatever you want to learn, you can go online and you can learn it. But what I'm finding in my work is that people are still not paying enough attention to this subject.
Right.
They're either going overboard with porn or with, other methods of finding this stuff out, affairs, what have you, or they're oppressed and silenced and they're just saying, you know what, I better work more at the office or, pick up a hobby because I'm not going to get any further ahead with this sex thing.
Right.
So they're giving up on it. So they're either doing something which could cause more problems in the relationship and more disconnection, or they are just kind of going into a little shell and saying, this is my lousy life, and I'm not going to have better or more or anything like that where sex is concerned.
And then what happens is some people end up saying, I'm not going to die like this. I'm not going to die with this kind of terrible sex life.
Yep.
I'm going to get it outside. That happens in a lot of situations. Like, I've had it. I've tried. I've asked her. I got her sex for dummies.
Yep.
Somebody did do that for, to encourage his wife to be better in bed. That didn't go over very well.
Yep.
I mean, hey, here's sex for dummies. Read this, be better.
Yeah.
But so there are things that we try to do that are, that are maybe done with a good heart because we're trying to connect with our partner, but because we don't know, maybe don't even want to Google something because we're worried about, our computer getting pop-ups and we're trying to find information, but we don't have any idea how to find it, or the information is at a level that is just like too much in your face.
Yep.
And it's just not the kind of thing, your wife would never even listen to that kind of thing. It's just too much. So when I talk to people, I try to break down the big mountain of sex, the big S, as somebody called it, into 7 different components, using the word bedroom to guide me. So each letter stands for something. And for example, B is for body. So we need to know about our bodies. And it goes all the way through M, mindfulness. There's 2 O's in there because we like 2 O's in sex, but not necessary. Yep. But so I help people think about sex more, I guess, practically. So to give couples and singles an opportunity to know who they are through these different areas, and then we can actually have these conversations and make decisions. So for example, E is for environment, and my husband often uses that with me. So how's the environment? He'll say, so hey, how about the lighting in here? Or I know it's actually really bright in here. How about if I'm going to close the curtain because you're not tired. It's daytime. Maybe he has the afternoon off. The kids, we have one child still at home. He's at school, so that might be a nice time to be together. But if it's super bright, I don't like that. It's not as sexy to me. Yep. So we talk about environment, and it's part of him knowing who I am instead of guessing and then hoping I'm going to get the idea that he's interested.
Yep.
Kind of putting it out on the table more, with more, I guess, honesty, being honest.
Well, the thing that I loved about your message and your work and your style was that I felt this was a safe conversation to have with you. So I felt like I would be safe, my audience would be safe. I used Carol, my wife, as a kind of measuring stick. I knew that she would love your approach. So she's kind of like the voice and reason in my world too. So I wanted it to be comfortable for everyone to talk about, and that's why I liked your approach so much, because it was like talking to your good friend and just kind of feeling so comfortable about it. And that's why I wanted to have you on the show, because I just thought your approach and the acronym bedroom and the whole message was just so comfortable and safe. And I think that's one of the things we need to make the breakthrough, is to have this conversation. Is I know for a lot of my male friends, especially in my age group, I'm 53, our generation is still a little bit closed about this thing. So we want to be able to talk about sex in a safe way, so that it doesn't seem gross or raunchy or scary or, orgy filled.
Yeah.
And so that's why I loved your approach so much, and I'm hoping that our audience will feel the same way, and they will want to reach out and talk to you further about this.
Nice. I appreciate that. Because, I'm also in my 50s still, barely holding on in my 50s. And my friends have the same experience. But even people a lot younger than us feel this way. I have clients in their 30s who still are having trouble having the conversation. So it's the way we were raised.
Yeah, it's
we weren't
totally
raised
based on that. 100%. And so what we want to do is, again, getting back to permission, give people permission who were not raised with the open conversation about this. I know I wasn't. We didn't even talk about anything.
Yeah.
We had to just figure it out on our own. But we want to give people who aren't used to talking about this permission to start talking about it. And I think that will, I hate to use the phrase world peace, but I guarantee you, people, you're listening to this right now, if you do what Jane is saying, we will create world peace together. Because happy people in homes create happy families and happy kids. And when everybody's happy, because they're talking about this, it's just going to change the world.
That's why I got into this. People ask me all the time, like, well, how did you get interested in this? And they're looking at me. I've got all these kids, and and I'm not who they would expect to be talking about sex. Mm-hmm. And really, as I've thought about it, that's why. Because I was not raised in a family where people talked about sex. My parents weren't affectionate at all together, and so I didn't have any model around that. And there were some real problems in the household. And one of the things I've noticed with my relationship with Jim is, because we've had a passionate connection through our marriage. Certainly, it hasn't been perfect. We have had challenges just like everybody else out there, many of them. But when we've managed to keep that connection strong, I've noticed that it's helped our whole family. And our girls now, we have big grown-up girls, one's 28 and one's 25. And one of the things that they tell us is that their friends are so jealous that their parents are in love. Yeah. And that it's obvious that their parents are in love. We haven't necessarily, for example, none of our kids play the piano. We tried that out. It never worked. We never got people to practice. We paid a lot of money for lessons. It never happened. But we do have a loving marriage, and that's what they talk about. They talk about the fact that they are just so grateful that we have a loving marriage. And so to me, it's really important, because when you don't have any physical connection, any sexual connection, most of those people don't touch. Yeah. They don't hold hands. They don't hug. They don't kiss on the lips. So here's a piece of homework for everybody who's listening. For the next week, kiss your partner once a day for at least 10 seconds and count it out. Keep your lips together once a day for 10 seconds and see what that does. Kind of amazing, because those 10 seconds are a lot longer than most people kiss. People are starting to have the grandma kiss, Yeah. Yep. Bye, honey. That's it. But there's no open mouth kissing. There's no simple licking. There's none of those kinds of things that really when we first knew each other, were a huge part of our relationship.
You got to have a shower curtain handy.
Right. But we stopped doing that. And just even on the topic of kissing, I can give men some great advice right now about that. Men tend to overwhelm women with their kissing. They also sometimes if they aren't taking care of their hygiene, that's a problem. But men are bigger usually, and the women are smaller, and they kind of just like, whoa. It's almost, I had this exact conversation yesterday in my office. Somebody they just like attack my face. Women don't like that. So the point is to kind of make your mouth as smaller so that it fits her, and let her come to you and kind of coax her. Don't overwhelm your woman with your kissing, and then she'll come forward to you. And that's a really good lesson for all of sex, is to draw your woman out. The other thing that men should know about women is that men hold their sexual energy at the core, in the center, so down the groin and up through the center. That's where the energy is. And if you want to touch your man so he likes that, you're going to touch his chest, you're going to touch his groin, and he's like, yeah, she gets me. Yep. And then guys do that for their woman. They go up and they're like, yeah, touches her on the breast or right in the groin. And the woman's like, hey, I'm making macaroni and cheese here, second. But for women, we have our erotic energy in the periphery, in the hands, in the feet, in the hair. Yeah. If you think about what women do, you get the mani-pedi, you get the hair salons, or they're doing the head massage. They, everybody, we have our long hair, or we mess around with our hair. So if you want to appeal to your woman, you start touching her hands, just stroking lightly on the palms of the hands and just welcoming her that way, because that's taking that energy from the fingertips and eventually it brings it into the core. Okay. So you bring it from the outside in, or tell your wife or woman that you're going to give her a foot massage. Women love that stuff. Put a foot bath out. These are the kind of things you can start with that help build desire. So if we talk about desire in a woman, and that would be D in bedroom, desire, she's not going to start at the same place that he starts maybe, but if you use some of these tips, that kind of gentle, small kissing and using the hand stroking or the foot stroking, and these are not necessarily with like, I'm going to do this for 5 minutes and then let's go upstairs and you're going to jump on me, but cultivating, and particularly if you've talked with her and you know that these are some of the things that might work for her. Maybe that's not how she likes it. Maybe there's something else. But really welcoming the conversation. What do you think? Do you think Carol would like that if you did this little hand stroking?
I think it would be awesome, and I think she would. And I'm listening intently as a student as I watch you talk, and I'm thinking about patience, and I'm thinking about slowing the whole thing down, and I'm thinking about savoring, and I'm thinking about whether there's a correlation between an instant gratification type personality and the high drive person. Because lovemaking and sex, whether they're the same thing or different, sometimes requires to slow everything down. So to really say to life, you have to hold on a minute, life. I have to engage with my partner, with myself and my partner, on this ride, on this journey, in an experience, in a feeling. And so when we are just, looking at a time slot and thinking, I got 30 minutes, get
her done.
Yeah. So there's so much more to this, which we'll have to talk about on another episode. I would love to have you back on, because this is obviously something we can talk about for forever.
Yeah.
But I'm just, I'm thinking, wow, the patience, the slowing it down. Sometimes our lives are just going at such a fast pace. We don't have time for any of this kind of stuff. We don't have it in our DNA. So we've got to really start to think about changing the way we behave a little bit if we want to get a different result.
Yeah.
And so much more to explore. I could talk to you all day. This is just such good stuff. So I want to let our audience know that you and I talked about a special program that you were going to offer the audience. It's called Secrets of Connection. And you were going to offer, is it 3 calls?
3 calls with me. There'll be an hour each.
Okay.
So there'll be, maybe 20 minutes, a half hour of content, and then question and answer. There'll be live calls and also recorded for people who can't make the live call. But I'd really encourage people to make the live call and ask the questions.
Okay.
And 3 calls and bonus materials to include some self-study guides so people can really start to apply the things that we talk about in their everyday lives.
Okay. And you were going to offer this to our audience for $97?
Yep.
Oh my God. Wow. Okay, so check this out, people. Listen to this. I know that I love what Jane has to say and her message. Can you imagine? Just think about this. You're listening to the show right now. 3 calls with her, live calls with Q&A for $97. That's just mind-blowing to me. Okay, so that's the special gift. Any time with you certainly is a special gift, but this is even better, and with bonus materials. So what we'll do is we'll put a link in the show notes to that so that they can connect with you directly. And I just want to thank you so much for honoring me with your presence today and giving all this great information and sharing your heart and your love with our audience. And I just want to thank you. So thanks for coming on the show, Jane.
My pleasure.
Thanks. We'll talk to you soon.
Okay, bye.
All right. Bye-bye.